It is September the 24th, 2018. Welcome to the Monday football edition of Third Down. I'm your host, T. Wayne Adana. It is a beautiful day to be alive. When the Saints pull off a win like they pulled off yesterday, the sun just shines a little brighter on a Sunday afternoon going into a Monday morning. Just recap that later on. But look, we're going to talk a little bit about today. LSU moved up in the ranks to be number 5 in the AP poll, the highest they ever been so far in this college football playoff era. Now, granted, this ain't the official college football playoff poll, but this the highest they've been so far, so give it credit where credit is well due. But I'm not too impressed about LSU, how they played this game on Saturday night. We talk about that. We're going to talk about the top 25. I got my donkey of the weekend in college football. Yes, indeed. We're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to once again, we recap the Saints and the Falcons on yesterday afternoon. And we're going to talk about some other top matchups that happened on yesterday. And we're going to talk about my panic or relax. I could put two teams in there, but I think I'm going to put the more traditional in there. Panic or relax for the NFL, and we're going to go from there. So, guys, I hope you did enjoy your weekend on this past weekend with everything that has happened. On that note, let's get on. Let's talk about them LSU Bengals, as I call them. LSU Tigers, they did defeat this past weekend LA Tech 38-21. It got too close. I did tell y'all, remember I said I think that Louisiana Tech probably would strike early, and they did make it to a 10-point ball game at once upon a time in the third quarter. Don't sleep on Louisiana school. That's the reason why that school is at where they're at right now, because they really do want to be the second best school. And I'm really hoping and proving maybe in the next 10 years that we could have another big Power 5 conference school in the state of Louisiana. And to me, it would be them. It wouldn't be Tulane. It wouldn't be UL. It wouldn't be ULM. It wouldn't be no schools like that. No disrespect to the HBCUs either. It would probably be Louisiana Tech. And I would love to see them in the Big 12 if they can ever get key matchup wins to put themselves over. But that's another discussion for another day that have nothing to do with the outcome on this past weekend. Let's talk about LSU. Once again, game managing offenses again. Now, Joe Burrow did get a touchdown call back because his player was out of bounds. He stepped out of bounds before he got into the end zone. But Burrow, who had 16 for 28, 191 yards. Edwards had 20 carries for 136 yards, and Anderson had 80 yards, 5 receptions. Smith, on the other hand, threw 3 TDs and 1 interception, 330 yards. Dancy had 31 yards, and Hardy had 181 yards. Now, this all against this LSU defense, and they had a quarterback throw for them 330 yards on the day this past weekend. I'm not too impressed with this team right now. Now, granted, they moved up to number 5, but, I mean, it's like second half, that's when they shut down. And that's been the trend probably since week 1. And I haven't seen that progress and get better since. I just haven't seen it, you know. And that's what I wanted to see in this game. I don't want to see LSU beat up on the schools that's not on their level. But you got to start putting a statement out against the SEC. When you start thinking about you have Ole Miss coming in this weekend, you got to go to Florida on the road, and then here comes Georgia coming to your house. Mississippi State going to come in your house soon. You know, all this because let's think about it. It's the last Saturday in September. LSU actually going to have a pretty decent September. If they win this Saturday against Ole Miss, they'll find themselves at 5-0 already in week 5. That's crazy, right? Find themselves 5-0 going into October and November, where really and truly, they're going to see how good they really are. I still think they playing slow. They still trying to learn each other, but they really have to let it rip. Let it rip. I mean, now you're getting into the harder conference play. You're 1-0 in conference, which that's a plus. At the same time, Ole Miss going to be hungry, if you ask me. Florida going to be hungry week after going into October. Georgia definitely trying to make a statement because Georgia really haven't beaten nobody yet. So if we could take down a team that's to knock down 2 top 10 opponents, we can show that we's really back in the mix. Now, things I want to see this weekend. I really want to see them keep the same, like you know how everybody's saying, when I see you on the block, keep that same energy you got on right now on social media. When I see you in the streets, keep that same energy when I see you in the streets. I want to see them keep that same energy they have in the first half and the second half. Because A&M this past weekend, they did lose to Alabama. But you could tell at times they was competing with Alabama. I think LSU had on the schedule, I'm not talking about the SEC championship game, on the schedule, physical schedule, LSU has a fighting chance against Alabama and Georgia. But it all depends on what they do in the second half. Because second half, they just shut down. They shut down against Southeastern. They shut down against Louisiana Tech. And to a degree, when you start how fast they had a fast start against Auburn, it took a prayer and a miracle to beat that to a certain degree. Fast starts, but they cool off so quick. So what's the answer? I think a lot of that's not only on the play, majority of that's on the coaching staff. I think Ed got to find a way to keep this team going in the second half, third and fourth quarters. Because they only play truly one good half of football. You don't win games at halftime. You win games with hit 0-0 in the fourth. So I'm interested to see how that's going to work out in the next couple of days and how they're going to prepare themselves for Ole Miss this weekend. I'll take the win. But I'm not satisfied with the win. I'm not satisfied. I mean, to a degree, you let them score as many points as Auburn scored. You know, they scored 21, Auburn scored 21. Hello, somebody. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. But I really want LSU to step their game up the next couple of weeks. Get into the heart of conference play, man. This is probably the best time. They got a golden opportunity. I really see this team. I mean, and I'm a LSU fan, but I'm a football fan at the end of the day, so I keep it real. With Georgia and Alabama being the more heavy hitters this year, I mean, you're looking at least 2 losses, possibly 1. I mean, if you're going to beat somebody, it's probably going to be Georgia. But if this offense show me something that we can compete with these 2 schools this year, and possibly when we think about next year's schedule, how much lighter it is. The hardest non-conference you have next year is Texas. And then what makes it hard, what makes the schedule more difficult, because you go to Texas next year, you go to Alabama next year, you go to Vanderbilt, you go to Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So you face three SEC West opponents on the road, and you go to one of the blue bloods of college football in Texas. Schedule technically is kind of hard because still you got to play Alabama and Texas on the road next year. But then when you think about who's coming to Death Valley, Florida's coming to Death Valley, Auburn's coming to Death Valley next year. You know, the easiest game to me on the road going to probably be Vanderbilt. So I think LSU need to think about it like this. And I'm gonna say it all to my LSU fans. I want y'all to understand this right quick. I don't think we a championship team this year. Nope. I'll be lying saying that my expectations is to get into the top 4, make it to the Final Four. Whatever bowl game we go to in the Final Four, win the bowl game, they're going to probably fight for a national championship. No. I don't think we that team yet. I don't think we that good. We not. We still playing conservative in the ball game. We not that good. We doing enough to get by to win games. We not physically out dominating games the way I think we supposed to out dominate games. We just doing enough to get by. But if we can at least ride the season, potentially lose 1 to 2 games this year, I think we're gonna be putting ourselves in a good spot for next year. With you think about the non-conference that you have, home and away, I think it's a lot easier than playing Miami and company and playing Georgia and Alabama in the same year, who was the two teams on the national championship stage last year. I think this year's the setup year for next year. I'm calling it out on September the 24th, and I know we just about to finish the first quarter of the football season. How can this young man talk to us about August of next season or September of next season? I'm telling you why, because it makes a lot of sense. I think LSU is going to be in the contender, and that's why I want to see confidence. I want to see Joe Burrow take the next step. I want to see Joe Burrow start showing that he has NFL draft stock. I want to see Joe Burrow start thinking about, like, man, I could be a top 10 quarterback going in the draft. Let me build myself up. Let me build my confidence up. You feel what I'm saying? So that's how I see it. That's how I take it. But I take the win. I do take the win. LSU's in good, and like I said, it's in a good spot. They're on the outside looking in. They're right behind Ohio State. Let's talk about the top 25 matchups. I mean, the top 25 as we speak in the AP poll. Start from 25 on down. Texas Tech cleans on in at 25. Cal at 24. Mississippi State, wow, goes to 23. Duke 4-0 at 22. Michigan State is at 21. BYU is at 20. Oregon, after that Oregon game, I feel bad for that young man who from the football. Oregon was so close. They still can't win big games. Oregon go to 19. Texas, who rejuvenizing their season after beating TCU and beating USC back-to-back weeks, found themselves at 18. Kentucky, the Wildcats. The Kentucky Wildcats are 4-0, and they find themselves at 17. Have a golden. Might talk about them on the midweek report. Cover a little bit about Kentucky. They got a golden opportunity to find themselves in the mix of things. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to beat Georgia, but they have an opportunity to maybe be a 11-1 or maybe a 10-2 football team this year. We talk a little about them maybe on Wednesday. But Miami's at 16. Wisconsin's at 15. Michigan is at 14. Poor Scott Frost and Nebraska Cornhuskers just got blown out in that game against Michigan. UCF 3-0, right back in the mix of things. They at 13. West Virginia 3-0 at 12. Washington 3-1 at 11. Auburn at 10. Penn State is at 9. Everybody from 9 on up is 4-0. Notre Dame is at 7. Notre Dame's at 8. Stanford at 7. Oklahoma at 6, LSU at 5, Ohio State at 4, Clemson at 3, Georgia at 2, and Alabama is at 1. Now, I remember last year, I got up on here and I said Auburn had a golden opportunity with with a loss on the schedule to find themselves in the mix of things, to get to the SEC championship game and find a way to get to the big stage, because they played Georgia and Alabama in the same year. So this year, this falls on LSU. Both teams come to Death Valley just like last year. And a matter of fact, they also probably about the same amount of weeks apart, maybe about a few more weeks apart than what Georgia was. Remember, LSU bye is always before Alabama's bye. Before Alabama. So, all in actuality, let's just be honest. LSU do have a golden opportunity to find themselves in the mix if they defeat both. But that's a big if, I just think right now where college football is at, I think where they setting themselves up for next year, LSU fans, this is when we're going to really start celebrating a little bit. I think next year, I'm going to call it early. I think next year, if this team get more confidence on offense, continue to add more pieces on defense, get more veteran leadership on defense, I'm pretty sure they can go to Alabama and compete and come out with another classic win like they did a few years back. And I'm saying they're going to Alabama and win. Not in Death Valley, they're going on the road. If you ask me, I prefer when LSU go down to Tuscaloosa and beat them in Tuscaloosa, and then they beat them in Baton Rouge. For the fact that, it feels so much better. Just like yesterday when the Saints played the Falcons in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and I told you they haven't won a football game there since, I want to say, 2016. And that was the old Georgia Dome. Remember, they came the year last December, Breeze threw a pick in the end zone to Deion Jones, potentially the game-winning score. it felt so good to see that team having fun yesterday. I know I'm jumping subjects right now, but it feels so much better. Instead of beating them in the Superdome, and you beat them in Mercedes-Benz Stadium instead of Mercedes-Benz Superdome.